You know that feeling, right? You've built a life, you feel secure, safe in your home, in your community.
Yeah.
Then suddenly, bam, unimaginable violence just shatters everything.
It's terrifying.
Today we're diving deep into two cases, two places you wouldn't expect this. The Christopher Dorner case in California and the Cheshire home invasion murders in Connecticut.
And what's so unsettling is that both happened in places most would consider safe. Irvine, California. Cheshire, Connecticut. Makes you think, right?
It does. It really does. No community is immune. Doesn't matter how perfect things seem on the surface. Evil can be anywhere.
Exactly.
You gave us an episode of My Favorite Murder to look at.
Oh, yeah.
It covers both of these cases. And revisiting them, well, it's heavy stuff, to say the least.
Absolutely. We can't forget the human cost, the real people, the families and communities forever changed by these tragedies.
Oh.
We have to approach these stories carefully, respectfully.
Right, absolutely. So, Christopher Dorner,
Right.
February 2013, sunny Southern California.
Sounds nice.
Former LAPD officer, Navy veteran, goes on a rampage. Revenge against the department that fired him.
This is a case that stands out, I think, because of who Dorner was, his background, his motivation. Not your typical criminal, decorated officer, knew the law, police tactics.
Adds a whole other level of, I don't know, calculation to it all.
It's
Competence.
chilling, for sure.
And it all goes back to 2008. He's fired, believes it's wrongful termination. He reported what he saw as excessive force from his training officer.
Tried to do things the right way, filed complaints.
Right, went through the official channels.
Yeah.
But the LAPD investigated and said his firing was justified.
And that's when things take a dark turn.
Yeah. He writes this manifesto, declares unconventional and asymmetrical warfare on the LAPD, not just officers, their families too.
Made it very clear how dangerous he was.
That manifesto, it's a window into his mind. The anger, resentment, feeling wronged. It wasn't just about getting his job back. This was personal.
Deeply.
He felt the system failed him, and he was going to make them pay.
And tragically, he did. First victims, Monica Kwan and her fiancé, Keith Lawrence. Shot in their car, parking garage in Irvine.
And one of the podcast hosts, she grew up right across the street from that garage.
Wow.
Violence can be so random, so close to home.
Literally. Really brings it home, doesn't it?
For sure. Imagine feeling safe in a place and then, bam, right on your doorstep. It makes it that much more unsettling.
Absolutely.
Things escalated quickly, massive manhunt, LAPD all over it. City was on edge.
I bet. Unprecedented, even for a city like LA. Homes searched, roadblocks, reward offered, everyone wondering, where's he going to strike next?
And that intensity led to some tragic mistakes. Accidental shootings, 2 women delivering newspapers, a surfer mistaken for Dorner.
Oh my God.
It makes you question, right? The use of force. Were the tactics appropriate?
It's tough. Law enforcement, always that balance, public safety versus individual rights. High-pressure situations, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes.
Or death?
Yeah. This case really highlights the need for clear procedures, training, to minimize those risks. Collateral damage.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, the manhunt goes on. Dorner's a ghost. Burned out truck found near Big Bear Lake, but he's vanished. Then, 2 Riverside police officers ambushed. One killed, Officer Michael Crane. The other seriously injured.
Dorner was elusive.
He was so skilled, resourceful, planned it all out. It made it that much more unpredictable, dangerous for everyone.
I can imagine.
Finally, days of searching, they corner him. Cabin in Big Bear. Car chase. Shootout.
Intense.
Deputy Jeremiah McKay, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. He's shot. Another deputy, too. Thankfully, they both survived.
That's good.
But the standoff ends tragically. Dorner dies in the burning cabin. Whether it was his own hand or the fire, still debated.
Even in death, still a mystery.
Right. Dorner's such a complex, controversial figure. The immediate threat was over, but so many questions remain.
Definitely.
The big one, could it have been prevented? If his complaints were handled differently, if he felt heard, would he have gone down this path?
It's haunting. Makes you think about the LAPD, their processes, accountability. Did they miss a chance to address something serious?
Something with devastating consequences. It's a sobering thought. And it leads us to our next case, equally disturbing, but in a different way. Cheshire, Connecticut, July 2007. The Petit family. A family torn apart in a community where, again, you'd never expect this kind of violence.
This one, I think, hits even harder. Our homes, they're supposed to be safe. But the Petit family, targeted seemingly at random, senseless, terrifying.
Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarieski, the perpetrators, recently paroled criminals. Even their names, as the podcast host pointed out, just unsettling.
Especially Komisarjevsky.
Yeah, it's hard to even say. And their appearances, so different.
Hayes, long criminal history, fit the image of a hardened criminal, but Komisarjevsky described as intelligent, artistic. Later, he drew the crime scene from memory, detailed,
Fascinating.
and incredibly disturbing.
It shows a detachment, obsession with the horror he inflicted. And then there's this other detail, comes out later. Komisarjevsky's ex-girlfriend's father, he'd warned his daughter, said Komisarjevsky was a pedophile.
Oh my God.
Knowing what happened to the Petit family, it adds another layer of darkness to the whole thing.
Makes you question the parole system. Were there signs, missed signs? Could it have been prevented if they'd monitored these guys, assessed the danger?
It's a question that hangs over the whole case. Early morning, they break into the Petit home, attack Dr. William Pettit, tie him up in the basement. Jennifer Hawk Pettit and her two daughters, 17-year-old Haley and 11-year-old Michaela, they're tied up, held captive in their bedrooms.
Hours of terror.
It's a nightmare. And they force Jennifer to go to the bank with them, withdraw money. She's so brave, she tells the teller what's happening.
Trying to get help.
Desperate. But it wasn't enough. Can you imagine that courage in that situation?
It's incredible. Her strength, her hope to save her family. It's heartbreaking that it didn't work.
It is. They go back to the house. The violence escalates. Michaela, the 11-year-old, she's raped. Then Jennifer, strangled and raped. They pour gasoline, set the nuts on a fire, and run. Dr. Pettit, somehow, he manages to escape from the basement as the house is burning.
Oh my God.
And here's what's even harder to process. Jennifer warned the bank. But the police, they were delayed. Inadequate response. People were outraged, demanded reform. They felt the police could have done more, should have done more to save that family.
I can understand why.
She gave him a heads up, a chance to stop it before it's too late. To think help was so close.
Agonizing.
It points to systemic failures, communication, protocols, maybe even a lack of urgency. Whatever the reason, the consequences were devastating.
Totally.
Dorner, Cheshire, they both expose these flaws in the systems that are supposed to protect us. Law enforcement, the justice system, parole. It's unsettling. But maybe by looking at these cases, understanding where these systems went wrong, we can figure out how to make them better, prevent it from happening again.
That's the hope, right? We have to learn from these tragedies, figure out how to create a safer world. Makes you think about accountability, about transparency. Are the systems meant to keep us safe actually working?
And it's not about being anti-police or anything.
Right.
It's about recognizing that systems, even the best ones, have flaws. And those flaws, well, they can have terrible consequences. We need to be able to talk about it openly, honestly, no defensiveness, no knee-jerk reactions.
I agree completely. It's about pushing for better, for everyone. And that starts with acknowledging the problems. Implicit bias, racial disparities, the justice system, lack of mental health resources.
It's a lot, right? So many interconnected issues can feel overwhelming. But I think it starts with education. The more we know, the better we can advocate for change, support organizations doing good work, contact our officials, even just talk to our friends and family about these tough issues.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. And in this case, it could be the power to prevent future tragedies. Podcasts like My Favorite Murder, they're a starting point, not just entertainment.
Right, it's a community. People come together, learn, share, process these tough topics.
Yeah.
It's empowering, in a way, taking something dark, something we often keep silent, and bringing it into the light.
Making it okay to talk about it, to analyze it, to demand better. And, one thing that struck me about these cases, the media's role, how they shaped public perception. Dorner versus Komisarjevsky.
Oh, interesting. I missed that too. Dorner, a black man, often portrayed as this monster, vengeful. Komisarjevsky, white. Sometimes he was portrayed as troubled, but intelligent.
Yeah. Almost like they tried to humanize Komisarjevsky in a way they didn't with Dorner.
Exactly. Makes you think about implicit bias in the media, right? How it can shape public opinion. Do we see certain criminals as more sympathetic based on race, background, even how they look? We have to be aware of that, especially with true crime.
Absolutely. Otherwise, we could be contributing to harmful stereotypes without even realizing it. Be critical of the information you're taking in. Question the narratives. Look for bias.
It's about looking deeper, getting different perspectives, challenging our own assumptions. And it's not just the media. These biases exist everywhere in the criminal justice system. Policing, sentencing.
Systemic problems, needing systemic solutions.
And it's important to remember, these conversations about bias, injustice, it's not about blaming anyone. It's about recognizing the problems exist. We all have a role to play in fixing them.
Absolutely. Look at ourselves, our communities. What can we do to build a more just and equal society? Sometimes that means tough conversations, challenging the status quo, listening to different viewpoints.
Get out of our comfort zones. We all have blind spots. That's something My Favorite Murder does well, I think. They create a space where people can feel safe talking about these complicated, challenging things.
They use humor, keep it conversational, but they never downplay the seriousness of the crimes or the need for justice. It's a tough balance, but they do it well. Engaging and informative.
And that's why they're so successful, I think. They build a community. People feel connected, supported, empowered to have these important conversations. And that, in itself, can create change.
Because change starts with awareness. Confronting uncomfortable truths. Demanding better. Through these conversations, sharing stories and experiences, we can start to change the narrative, create a more just and compassionate world.
And that brings us back to the two cases we've been talking about. Horrific, unsettling.
Yeah.
But even in the darkness, there are stories of resilience, courage, hope.
Absolutely. The Petit Family Foundation. Dr. William Petit, the only survivor of the Cheshire Home invasion. He took his grief and turned it into something truly meaningful.
It's incredible. So much loss, yet he found the strength to create something positive, to honor his wife and daughters.
The foundation has raised millions for STEM education, chronic illness research, violence prevention. It's a testament to the human spirit, turning pain into purpose.
Inspiring. Even in the darkest times, hope can shine through. Positive change is possible. We all have the power to make a difference, even in small ways.
Supporting organizations like the Petit Family Foundation, volunteering, speaking out against injustice, we can create ripples of change, ripples that spread far and wide.
We're not powerless, even in the face of tragedy. We can be agents of change, work towards a future where these horrors are less likely to happen. It's a powerful message, I think. What steps can we take, even small ones, to make a positive impact? How can we make a world where tragedies like these are less likely?
It's a good question, a question that shows how important it is to stay informed, engaged, and committed to building a safer, more just society for everyone.
A challenge, no doubt. We can't let these cases shut us down. Fear, despair, that's not the answer.
Nope. We have to turn it into action, positive change.
That feeling, this could happen anywhere, use that to make a difference.
Exactly.
And there's so many ways to do that. Supporting organizations like the Petit Family Foundation.
Right.
Pushing for policy changes, even just talking to people, our friends, families, about these tough issues.
It all adds up, recognizing that we're all part of the solution to make society safer, more just.
And it doesn't have to be these huge, sweeping things. Sometimes the little things that make the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
It's the choices we make every day, how we treat each other, the information we take in, the causes we get behind, being mindful, intentional, being a force for good.
I love that.
It's a process, right? Change doesn't happen overnight. There are going to be setbacks, challenges, but we can't give up.
Keep pushing, keep learning, keep fighting for a better future.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, a couple things to think about. First, don't let the darkness of these cases be all you see. There's resilience, courage, hope. Dr. Petit and the Petit Family Foundation, that's proof. Even with unimaginable loss, you can choose to create something good.
Powerful example.
Second, remember, we're not helpless. We all have the power to make a difference. Even small things, educating ourselves, speaking up against injustice, supporting those organizations fighting for change, every little bit counts.
We can all be part of it.
And lastly, never underestimate the power of just talking about these things, sharing our views, listening to others. It helps us understand how complicated these issues are and how to work towards solutions.
It all starts with dialogue.
So, keep those conversations going, keep asking questions, keep challenging the way things are, and keep believing that a better future, it is possible.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been heavy, important. I hope you'll keep exploring these issues and find your own ways to make a positive impact in your communities.